How much do you know about spell progression in D&D? When building a class all on its own, it's very easy to see how your spell slots progress. Once you get to level 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, 15, and 17, you go up a spell slot level as a full caster, and as a half caster, it's half the speed, so it's every 4 levels instead of every 2 levels. And then you've got the casters like Eldritch Knight, where it's a little bit wonkier than that still, but they also get spell slots. It's easy enough when you're just going for one class, but when you're going across multiple classes, it gets a lot more complicated. And as I am currently playing as an Artificer in a friend's campaign, and I am looking at multiclassing, it had me playing around a little bit to see what's what. Now, depending on your experience with the game, you might know more or less about this, but you don't need to stick to the same class to get higher level spell slots. You can mix and match as long as you have the stats to do so. And I'm going to show that off with a few different examples, and also talk a little bit about how sometimes taking a level in a non-caster class to take a third tier caster's subclass might make more sense than not doing that, even if that doesn't make much sense, as well as just a few different examples of what you can and can't do and how it all works. So let's take a look, shall we? To kick things off, I want to go with the worst adventurer in existence. This is a character with 13s across the board, because you can do that with point buy if you put your 3 points into the other things that you haven't gotten to 13. This is a Bard 3, Cleric 3, Druid 3, Sorcerer 3, Warlock 3, Wizard 3, Fighter 2. If you're multi-classing, you have to take 2 levels in Fighter. Those are the rules. We all know it. Interestingly, this character does not actually have level 9 spell slots, because the Warlock spell progression is different to all of the other spell progressions, and it's counted separately as such, which is fascinating. Basically, your packed spell slots do not progress in the same way your normal spell slots do. So, which I'll show you. So I've not chosen many spells here just for my sanity, even though I do still have a few available. But as you can see, we have 4 first level slots. We have 3 second level slots, along with 2 packed slots at second level, because we are a third level Warlock. We have 3 third level slots, 3 fourth level slots, 2 fifth level slots, 1 sixth, 1 seventh, 1 eighth, no 9th, because the Warlock and the Fighter mean that we're actually 2 levels away from that, theoretically. If I were to add spells to the spell list, I would be unable to add any above second level, because none of the individual classes here are capable of casting spells higher than second level. The reason being, each class's spell slot progression, they all come together, but the individual spell choices that you make are based on the classes on their own, which means that because I've not gone past third level in any of these classes, I can only take first or second level spells as a result. If I were to bump one of these up to 5, I would be able to take third level spells in that specific class, right? It's just weird. You might already know this, in which case I am a little perplexed as to why you're watching me talking about it, but I appreciate you being here. Hello. This allows you to potentially multi-class without losing spell slots, or at least not as many. So I'm going to go over some level 8 character sheets quickly, just to show how different things interact, just in case you were curious. If you're wondering why level 8 specifically, I do not have an answer for you. It's just where I was playing around with all of this stuff when I was thinking about this. And didn't discover this. I sort of knew this. I just never really given it much thought for some reason. I think a lot of thoughts. None of them were this. Anyway, first we have our level 8 Artificer. I think this is most interesting when applied to half-casters, because they often benefit the most from multiclassing, in my opinion. I don't think any of the half-caster classes are that strong on their own. You're welcome to think otherwise, and that is fine, but I think a lot of them benefit from different multi-classes. An Artificer, for example, if you're going range, benefits a lot from either a Monster Hunter or a Gunslinger multiclass, because they just do a lot of good work, and they also give you weapon masteries and a fighting style, specifically, which the Artificer doesn't get otherwise. That's less of an issue with Paladins and Rangers, both of which get fighting styles and weapon masteries, but they don't get the items, and their spells are a bit weaker as a result-ish. But multi-classing getting a couple levels in Fighter, or 3 levels in Fighter for Champion, if you're going for DPS and you want that lovely, adorable, wonderful, tasty boost to your crit range, makes a perfect amount of sense. So yeah. So with our 8th level Artificer, we have 4 first level slots and 3 second level slots. We will get third level slots at level 9, but I'm not interested in that. Our next choice is an Artificer 5 Gunslinger 3. The key thing here is that with this Gunslinger, I have taken the Spellslinger subclass, which is a third caster, which results in 4 first level slots and 3 second level ones in the exact same spell slot progression as we have with our Artificer. The difference being, obviously, if we take another level in Artificer here, we will not get to third level spells, but we do get the same number of first and second level spells, so it's not as bad. What happens if you don't want to take that third level in Gunslinger, and that's a perfectly reasonable thing to do? Well, then you end up with 4 first level and 2 second level slots. You lose a spell slot. Because you haven't spell slotified your Gunslinger levels, you have 2 levels which aren't contributing anything, whereas that third level gives you access to some spell slot progression, even if it's not as much. So take a third level, third part, a third caster. What are they called? I'm flailing here. I've had nowhere near enough sleep to be doing this video, but here we are. Also, do you like my electric cowboy top? Ta-ta. Anyway, so that's that one. Next, I thought we'd get a bit adventurous. I've taken Artificer 5, Gunslinger 2, and Wizard 1. Wizards are full casters, which means that we get back some of the progression that we would have missed. So we're back up to 4 and 3 again, which is cool. Either way, you get wizard spells, by the way. The Spellslinger gets access to wizard spells, and there's a good reason to take it. Get Find Familiar, get Shield, get a bunch of cool stuff. Always worth it, right? Next, we have a Fighter 5 and a Wizard 3. The Fighter is an Eldritch Knight. The Wizard is a wizard. It doesn't really matter which subclass it is. This one has 4 and 3 because you've got 3 levels of a full caster and 5 levels of a third caster, which equals 4 and 3. And then we've got Fighter 3, Wizard 5, which is 4, 3, and 3. Because we now finally have a class which gets 5th level spells. So we're gaining a full 3 slots from being a full caster for some of those. Given that there is a very good argument for going Wizard Fighter if you want to play an Artificer style build but without the infused items. If your warrior's spell slots, this is obviously the way to go. If you want a number of spells at your command, this obviously still nets you the Eldritch Knight subclass, which means that if you want to take that to level 6, you could get extra attack with your cantrips, which is always useful, along with obviously all sorts of proficiencies with martial weapons and armors. So yeah, I just thought it was really interesting. I don't know if it is really interesting. I've not done a video like this for a while. I've been sticking to my lanes fairly well. But I think it's really fascinating to see how all of these things add up. So what I would say, if you're thinking about multiclassing and you're playing any kind of class really, if you are worried about your spell slots, I would make a copy of your character and play around a little bit with what gets what. It turns out getting a third tier caster can actually be beneficial for your spell slots and your spell slot progression, but then obviously you are sacrificing some of the aspects of whatever class it is that you have taken otherwise. Otherwise, just stick to your full casters. Unless it's a warlock, because that doesn't count, as it turns out, at all. That's just pack slots. They're a whole other thing. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this tired infused mini explainer from me. While I do a lot of builds on my channel, I don't ever really think about spell slots as much as I can avoid it because they complicate things. And every time I do, I end up doing Conjure Minor Elementals and I hate it. So it's something I'm going to be fixing in builds coming up. Not coming up soon. I've got a few more martial builds coming up, including the Ranger build and a few other things. But yes, that is it for me today. I hope you enjoyed this weird thing. I hope that you are doing well and continue to do well. And I will see you whenever I next see you. That's it. Yeah, like and subscribe. Also, goodbye. I'm bad at YouTube.